Welcome to the Female Founder Friday podcast, a collection of inspiring conversations with the most interesting female entrepreneurs and small business owners. I'm your host, Lindsay White, and together with my incredible guests, we'll explore the struggles of being a female entrepreneur, the most important lessons, and the future of women leaders in business. And I'm passionate about helping female entrepreneurs become the calm, confident leader their team and their business really need. And that's why I've recently launched my 6-week mental fitness bootcamp. This amazing program will help you tackle your inner critic, tame your saboteurs, tap into your sage inner voice, and increase your positive intelligence. With a combination of a daily practice in the custom app, a weekly focus to increase your awareness, and regular group coaching sessions led by me, you'll build the mental muscles you need to quickly overcome the changes and challenges you're facing right now. If you're ready to transform your leadership and your life, my next pod gets started soon, so don't forget to connect with me at highvoltageleadership.ca/positive intelligence to learn how you can get involved. My guest on this week's podcast is Shannon Lohr. Today, Shannon's a sought-after expert consultant in the sustainable fashion industry, but there have been a few chapters in her life before she became so successful. She started as a college grad with few prospects, and after traveling around the world and bartending for a couple years, Shannon connected with a friend, and together they launched a business that was the highest funded in Kickstarter history. It's this grit and hustle that Shannon learned through the building, growing, and selling of her own businesses that led her to create Factory 45, the business school for fashion entrepreneurs, where she's helped more than 500 fashion brands since 2014. Shannon's got so much incredible wisdom to drop on us today about business, life, and leadership. So let's jump in. Hey, welcome, Shannon, to the Female Founder Friday podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today. Thanks for spending some time with me.
Thank you for having me, Lindsay.
It is a pleasure. It is an absolute pleasure. And I'm really excited. I know a little bit about your journey to becoming a female founder, but I know there's a lot more to the story. So I'm excited to just jump in and ask you about, how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, I feel like there are chapters to my story. And right now I think there's like 3 chapters so far. So the first one is really in 2010, I set out to start a sustainable fashion brand. Wow. I had just gotten back from bartending my way around the world for 2 years. I graduated during the 2008 financial crisis. I didn't really want to get a real job. There weren't really real jobs to get. And so I decided to just travel. And basically I got back to the States and I followed up with a girl who I had met while bartending in Australia. And she sent me a Facebook message. She said, I know you're not going to get a real job. Let's do something together. And we ended up starting a sustainable fashion brand. It took us a year and a half to really get that off the ground. It was an industry that is very closed off to newbies. And I was not a fashion major. I was a journalism major. She was a business major. So really had no background, didn't know how to walk the walk or talk the talk. But I guess it goes to show some hustle and some grit and some, luck. We ended up launching the highest funded fashion project in Kickstarter history at the time to launch our brand. Wow. And it was just this whirlwind first experience in entrepreneurship that led me to feel like it should be easier for people to start sustainable fashion brands that, are inherently social impact businesses, sustainable from the start, ethical from the start, because that's something that is sadly very rare in the fashion industry.
Yeah. Yeah. So we hear a lot of
that's the end of chapter 1.
So first of all, I love it. I love that you said the hustle and the grit. And the truth is, I think that takes you a long way. It wasn't that you two girls we're smart cookies. Like, let's be honest. Clearly you and your partner in this fashion brand were pretty smart ladies with some pretty good backgrounds, maybe not in fashion, but it wasn't like, you'd never done anything before. But man, you can go a long way when you just, put your mind to it, put a little heart into it. Right.
Yeah.
I
think that, that's so much of it. I always am telling my entrepreneurs who I now work with, which we'll get to, that the single most important quality of an entrepreneur is the ability to take action. It's not about what you know. It's not about all the credentials. It's not about the best idea even. It's really about the ability to put one foot in front of the other and to take action and to move forward. And if you're able to do that, you're actually like ahead of 99% of people, because so many people will never start and they'll procrastinate.
Yeah, it's true, right? You just massive, messy action.
Yes.
Do it. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay. So that was totally chapter 1. What about chapter 2? I can hardly wait.
So we ended up, this big successful, featured in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal. It was like this amazing thing. We thought we were going to go into it, like fail, fall on our faces, learn from it, and move on to something else. So when we decided to part ways as co-founders, I ended up selling my portion to my business partner. I went on to pursue other projects, and I started consulting on a per project basis and really just kind of dabbling in this world of sustainable fashion consulting and education, and what that kind of looked like for me from a career standpoint, but also what it would look like for brands and people who wanted to work with me. And what I quickly realized was I loved working with startups. Startups didn't have any money. So in order, the fashion consultants that we see in the landscape, they're charging, upwards of $5,000 a month to work with them. Startups don't have that money to invest from the beginning. So I kind of talked to clients, I talked to customers, identified who I wanted to work with. And then I came up with a model, which was to work with a bigger group of people at less money, in a way that was still, going to pay my rent and create a sustainable business, but was more affordable for them. Yeah. And so that led me to create an accelerator program called Factory 45, which is now the online business school for sustainable fashion brands. It's trusted by over 500 fashion entrepreneurs since 2014. But that's what I now do, as chapter 3.
I love it. I really like how you sort of reverse engineered that. Like, who do I really like to work with? What do they really need? And then, okay, how do I make enough money to actually do this full time? Like that, I think that's a really cool way to approach building a business that you really love, helping people do stuff that's really cool, while still having some kind of life. So I mean, we can't give it away for free as much as maybe we would at moments in time, right?
Yeah, and it's not to say, like, I gave plenty away for free, and in the beginning you have to do that. You do have to, take on the beta client, or just kind of like dabble at first, but I think that's all important. But then once you get your feet under you, then you have to know your value.
Yeah. And I think that's such a wonderful point, because it's something that I find a lot of the female entrepreneurs that I work with, that's always a struggle. And I certainly have had that too. Like, what do I charge for this? Yeah. Right. Like, really claiming and owning that it's not just what I do for you today. It's all of the things that I bring from my background, my experience, and my expertise that adds up to be that number, right? Totally. You're getting all of that, and you're getting all of this fabulousness that's right in front of you right now. Yes. And that's tricky for so many of us. And I know I struggled with that in the past too.
Yeah. Especially just as women, I think we just tend to, I don't know if underestimate ourselves, or we get imposter syndrome, or you just like, you don't see the men struggling with this. The men are fine to just, charge whatever they want. But yeah, for some reason we need that little boost.
Yeah. You know what? I think some of it is an inside job. It's the conversation we have in our own head. And that's a lot of the work that I do as a coach, is really helping, largely women get a grip on that internal conversation. And you're right. Those saboteurs, they tell us we're not good enough. And we don't belong here. And who do we think we are? And that's all garbage. So you're right. Some of that is certainly the inside job. I think also some of it is we just don't intrinsically value what we do in the same way that lots of men do. And that's the way we're socialized, right? But what I love is that I see lots of female business owners and lots of coaches flipping the script on that. And certainly, I've had to do my own work, and it's really important to be able to say, I know why I charge this, and be able to, really claim that. Right. So I love that. I absolutely love that.
Claim it and back it up, you have to create, you have to deliver a premium product if you're going to charge premium prices. When you're just getting started and you don't have that premium product yet, then you can charge less and be okay with that and know that you'll grow into it. But I think, it's a really good point.
Yeah. I love that. Awesome. You know what? So now I want to ask you the deadly question. And I love asking this question because the answers are always great. But 3 big chapters in your journey already. Where have you, sort of made mistakes, messed it up, and what did you learn from that? Because I think that's so valuable.
Yeah. So just to sum up chapter 3, I started Factory 45, which is what I do now. It is the online business school that takes sustainable fashion brands from idea to launch. So since 2014, I've worked with entrepreneurs all over the globe to help them launch their sustainable and ethical fashion brands. And, I think about that journey, which is my, obviously my most recent one. But if I start to think about mistakes, I think one of them goes back to perfectionism. This is something that I've had to really, it's the internal struggle, right? Of knowing when something, is good enough, even though it's not perfect. And I remember, launching Factory 45 in 2014 and everything meticulously perfect. I would work on a project or something for months, and then it would be oh, that wasn't what people wanted, start again, scratch it. Rather than now, I think I'm much more likely to get something out there, get feedback on it, be okay with it not being perfect, and know that it still has value and that it can evolve and change. And it just, done is better than perfect, really. The other thing is I don't think I brought on team members soon enough. So I hadn't, the first hire I made was an assistant or a VA, which I think is a very common first hire. And now I have, and of course this comes with growth and, experience. And so you're not going to hire this big team in year 1, but now I have, a director of operations, a director of enrollment, a creative director, a content manager, a podcast manager, all of these people around me. And it is life-changing in terms of the amount you can get done. And then the more impact you can have. The company has grown so much because of those people. So I think I would have done that sooner in retrospect.
Yeah, totally. It is a big step. And it is sometimes very challenging. It sounds like you've managed to move past that, to let go of
the control.
And I think for many business owners, moving out of working in your business day to day and working on your business from a more strategic level. That is, there's a big shift when you hire the first person and letting go of some things and then a few more things. And then that's a big step, right?
Yeah.
Because it's your baby. Like, let's be honest, we give birth to these beautiful businesses.
Yeah.
And then we have to let go a little bit. And so, but then the next really big step is actually to step out of. I don't have to touch all of these things. I can't actually. It gets to the point where you can't touch all of them. And the truth is, the more you try, the worse it gets, right? Like,
yeah. And I think that shift, like there was like such a clear mental shift for me from I run my business. I am not my business. Like beautiful. That was like probably for, the last 6 years, I was the business. I was, the one doing all the things. And yes, I would have contractors or I would have help, but like, I'm not the business. I run the business, like you said, from a strategic standpoint. And when you can make that mental shift, it's like so freeing.
Yes. And I think that is beautifully, beautifully said. I run my business. I'm not my business. It is not who I am. It's what I do. And I put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and I really love it. And I've got great passion for it, but it's not who I am.
Yeah.
And I think that is just beautifully, beautifully articulated, Shannon, because I think a lot of business owners get tripped up in that space. Layer in the perfectionism, right? Because you mentioned that earlier, and man, does that get in our way? This again, that's the inside game. This need for things to be perfect. You know what? Perfect's an illusion, isn't it?
Right.
It doesn't really exist. No. And it doesn't, honestly. And then
because you're perfect is somebody else is not somebody else's perfect. That's the thing. It's like if you're chasing perfectionism, you are chasing something that can never be attained, because for you, it's going to be different than someone else who may see it. They don't like that font. They don't like that color scheme. Why did you spend, 3 days on this one graphic?
Well, and I think we've seen, especially compounded over the last couple years, that the rapid pace of change.
Yeah.
Right. And so when we are focused on perfection, we are missing the opportunity to iterate and be agile and be nimble in our businesses, because we are so focused on the minutia that either no one else cares about, because that's usually what it is. Nobody gives a shit what your font looks like. Let's be clear. Yep. Or you're right. You're not going to impress everybody. Right?
Yeah. And the minutia is just so easy for us. Like, that's just like, it's such an easy procrastinator. Like, well, I have to do like all these other things that probably don't matter, but they keep us busy, and they create that illusion of I'm making progress. I'm doing things for my business. I'm working on my business, but they're not things that actually move the needle or really have a significant impact.
No. And the truth is, as you said so beautifully, if that minutia is important, hire someone who can focus on that minutia, that's their expertise, that's what they went to school for and have spent 10 years doing. Get it off your plate and go do the strategic things that are going to grow your business.
Right.
Stop touching it. I say this to my clients all the time. You have to stop touching it. You hired really smart people. Get out of the way and let them do their thing. Yeah. If they need feedback, hey, let's talk about how you can do that really well. If they need vision, let's talk about how you tell the story and, really paint that compelling picture. If they need a great leader, let's talk about how you lead. Yeah. Otherwise, shut up and get out of their way. Like, stop, right? Stop. So I really, what a beautiful lesson to offer any of the entrepreneurs that are listening to this, because I think the struggle is we don't see it in ourselves sometimes. So what a great opportunity for people to reflect. Like, is this me? Am I doing this? Is it time for me to get out of the way? That's just brilliant. What is there any other lesson? I mean, you've been doing this now, you coach others to create these beautiful, sustainable fashion brands. Any other lessons that you would offer to entrepreneurs?
Oh man, we went through so many, like just like getting out of your way, like that, getting out of your own way. It's like, that is the major thing. I would say, I mean, just from like my industry, but I think it applies to many industries, is not being afraid to talk to your customer. I think another thing, we, especially when we identify as the business and not running the business, we can take feedback so personally, and the smallest criticism or the smallest suggestion can just stick with us for days, obviously depending on how sensitive you are. But I think especially in the early entrepreneurial journey, we're vulnerable. We just feel all the things, everything. Yes. Like every small obstacle feels like a lightning bolt that is just, hit us to the ground. So I think that just remembering that feedback is so important. Talking to your customer is so important. And in the end, it's going to create a better product, a better business. And when you can remove the personal element from it, then you can separate yourself from that feedback and use it in a way that benefits you rather than maybe kind of derails you.
Yeah. Yes. You know what? I think that's brilliant advice. And you're right. It's in the disconnection that we can really take what our clients and customers are trying to tell us and use it, not because it's about us, but it's again, because it's about the business. There's got to be a separation. And I want the one thing I heard that it isn't a word that you use, but it's really about listening, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's about really listening with a keen ear, parking the ego so that you can really hear what people are saying. Yeah.
And I think the sooner you can do that in any type of business you're in, whether that is fashion or whether that is something totally different, it is going to, again, it's going to create a better, more sustainable business in the long run.
Yeah, 100%, right? Because otherwise, why are you doing this thing?
Right. And to continue, continue, even once you're established, you've been in business, that product has been out on the market for years, like continuing to ask for feedback. I think that's one of the things that I did do a good job of with Factory 45, is that I'm always asking my students for feedback. We're always changing the program. We're always adding resources, new elements to it. And that is because they will tell you exactly what they want. And that makes for it's easier for you to market it. It's easier for you to sell it because you know that you're putting the best possible product out there and you feel, good about telling everyone about it.
Yeah, totally. And I think if you're not, that's when you get left in the dust, right? Mm-hmm. Like we've seen it with some big, huge brands, right? I think the example that I think of right now is Peloton, right? Mm-hmm. Like at the beginning of the pandemic, you couldn't buy one of those bikes. They were on back order forever. And now all of a sudden they've kind of stopped listening to people. And what's happened, man, it's just tanked, right? Their sales have just fallen right away. They've stopped listening. Right? Mm-hmm. They were kind of too busy celebrating their success to really hear what people want now. And it changes really rapidly. So that is such fabulous advice, whether it's a product-based business or a service-based business. I think you got to listen. You got to talk to your clients all the time. Yeah. That is so awesome. Okay. So, you've built an incredible team now. And I love that you celebrate that. Okay. I should have hired sooner. And I think that that's a fabulous learning. But I want to ask you about your leadership. Like, what does being a leader really mean to you, Shannon?
Yeah, I think that, I'm an Enneagram 8. So if anyone knows the Enneagram, that's a very strong leader, like just natural leaders. But with that, I don't necessarily think that I was a great manager. I think that I had to learn to manage people, sort of back to what you were saying about like, get out of their way, trust that they can do it, take your, like check your control impulses. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and like, if they're not the right person for your team, then, and you need to, replace them or get someone new. But if they are the right person for your team, then you have to be able to release control and hand over the reins and trust that they're going to get the job done in a way that aligns with your business and your brand. And so I think leadership so much is like, maybe like doing less, like it's leading by example. And instead of trying to have your hands in all the things and do more, it's actually do less, step back, trust. And also so important is positive reinforcement, positive feedback. I think that was another thing that I needed to get better at over the years, is remembering to slow down. Like when we're entrepreneurs and we're running our businesses, it's so fast paced. We're like, okay, that's done. Do this now. That's done. Okay, let's work on this. That's done. But taking that time to slow down, to pause and to say, you did a really great job on this. Here are the 3 things that I liked the most, or, and then remembering to pad constructive feedback with positive, suggestion, criticism, whatever it is, and then positive at the end.
Yeah. And I think I'm a pretty strong leader like yourself. And the truth is, I think women like us, we don't necessarily need a ton of positive reinforcement.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that that's actually such a beautiful comment, that as a leader that maybe doesn't require that, we actually need to be really sensitive that it is really critical inside a business that we're building and a team that we're leading. We need to stop and celebrate. Now, we don't have to we're not talking like parade down the avenue. We're talking about, this went really well and you did an awesome job. And for the most part, that's what people really just need, is some recognition.
Yep.
In a way that's meaningful for them, not for us.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing I see leaders do, is like, oh, I'll get someone to speak at next week's meeting. Well, but that, that'll show off their skill. They don't like speaking in front of a group. So that's torture. That's not a reward or a celebration. That's torture, right? So you got to make it fit for the person.
Yes.
But I love the idea of slowing down and really embracing, the even some of the small wins, because that's what gives people motivation. It gives them energy. It fuels their passion. And that's what moves our businesses forward. Right.
Yeah, 100%.
I like that. I like that a lot. And you've said that a couple of times in this conversation about, as business owners, we need to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We get going so fast, don't we, Shannon?
Yeah. I mean, that is just like that's society, right? Is like, if you are not being productive in this moment, then like, what is your point on earth? And that is not how we're meant to live. Like we're not meant to just be these like assembly lines of output. And I think remembering that, to give days off, if you do have full-time employees, just, give a day off for no reason, or honor that person's request for a long weekend and actually don't email them on Friday when they've already told you they're not going to be at their desk. Like all of these things, I think it's just like little things to remember that make such an impact on the people who work for you. And then that just benefits your business like tenfold, because they're happy and they know where their strengths are, and they feel good about working with you.
Yeah, I love that. It really is it really is a million little things, isn't it?
Yeah.
I truly believe, I mean, my sort of philosophy and approach to all of this is that people actually do want to do their best work. And maybe, some people would say I'm naive, but I do believe that people want to be in roles and work for organizations where they can show up, they can use the skill and experience they have in a positive way, they can feel like they're making an impact, and work in a place where they feel valued and respected. Like, I do believe that. Now, occasionally you're going to get a jerk, Don't get me wrong. But like you said, you know pretty quickly who those people are, and you find them another way out. And when we can do that, when we can do the little things, listen to our team, like you said, give them a long weekend for no reason other than they deserve it because they've worked hard. You know, those are celebrate it when they do something great. When a client sends great feedback, hey, you know what? This is all you did this. This is awesome. That's all they want, right? Yeah. People will deliver their best for you. And ultimately, what does that result in? It results, you know, in your clients being happy and them just bringing you all their money, right?
Yeah. And, you know, I said, you know, one of my mistakes was not hiring sooner, but I think in some ways it happened for a reason, because if I had hired sooner and had the team I manage now, like I wouldn't have known all of this stuff. I think I would have taken more of like that hard ass angle of like, okay, like next, you know, and
right.
and maybe it was like motherhood, like becoming a mom. I don't know how, you know, or reading books, who knows? But I think that like soft leadership, like soft, slow leadership, I think is far more powerful than hard ass leadership, which seems like very outdated and not applicable anymore.
No, it like that command and control stuff. It just doesn't work. You don't get the best of people. You get frightened people.
Frightened, yes.
Intimidated people. You get scared people. And when people are frightened and intimidated and scared, they're definitely not delivering their best for you. No. When they feel heard and respected, when they feel like you genuinely care about them as a human, that's when they will show up and give you their best. So that it's, you know what, I really love that that's how you really strive to lead your team. And obviously, and Shannon, I know that you're incredibly successful. So it's clearly working for your business, and also, you know, for those people that you serve who are creating these really cool, sustainable fashion businesses, which is really what we need, right? Like that's what the world is just looking for right now. So that is super cool. I'm so grateful to have a little bit of your time today. I know you're busy, lady. So I love being able to spend some time with you. This has been such a wonderful conversation. I hope whoever's listening that I took like 3 pages of notes, because this is like solid gold. This is amazing stuff. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. It was fun to talk to you.
To everyone tuning in today, thanks for listening to the Female Founder Friday podcast. I really love Shannon's belief that as leaders, we need to get out of the way and trust our teams to do the really great work we hired them for. You can find out more about Shannon and what she does on Instagram, and her handle there is at Factory45Co. And of course, you can find me on Instagram, and my handle is at High Volt Leadership. The Female Founder Friday podcast has a goal to impact 1,000 listeners, and it would mean the world to me if you left this episode a 5-star review and shared it with all of your friends. Let's engage 1,000 female entrepreneurs and really amplify the message. Thanks again for being a part of the show, and don't forget to connect with me at highvoltageleadership.ca.